welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and my next guest, Dr. Albert Bramante, is where Hollywood hustle meets psychological healing. A veteran talent agent with over 2 decades of experience placing actors in major roles, Dr. Albert has lived and breathed the highs and lows of the entertainment industry. But what sets him apart isn't just his eye for talent. It's his doctorate in psychology and certifications in hypnosis and NLP. Dr. Albert is a rare hybrid, part industry insider, part performance mindset strategist. He empowers creatives to conquer self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and fear of success by rewiring the beliefs and patterns that hold them back. His no-fluff, neuroscience-backed tools give performers not just hope, but results. If you're ready to stop sabotaging your potential and start booking with confidence, Dr. Albert is the coach you didn't know you needed. Let's welcome to the show, Dr. Albert.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, the price was all mine, man. The price was all
Oh,
mine.
oh, great.
What was your first major realization that mindset mattered as much as talent?
Well, it really, even from my own experience, even when I was in college, just the type of space I was in my head really determined my performance, whether it was giving a public speech, taking an exam. It really was important to be in a strong positive mindset. And even as one of addition to me being working with actors, I've also been a college instructor for the past 20 years. So I've worked with thousands of students that were in their first and second year of college, and I can really tell you that exam anxiety is a real thing, is a real phenomena that can really hold students back. So sometimes I would see some really smart students that would freeze up on exams and would not perform very well as they should. And then when they would hand the exam, they would often say, I knew the answer, I just froze up, and I believe it. So I started working with actors in New York. That's where my agency is located, and the headquarters is in New York City. And I was noticing that even the mindset of an actor's mindset, a performer's mindset, can really take them farther than someone with a more, I guess you could say, negative or fixed mindset. So, because it really ties into your work ethic in a sense. So, if you have a really strong positive growth mindset, you're going to work a lot harder to get to where you need to get to. Versus if you have that fixed mindset, it's going to be more of the nothing can be done. It is what it is, and that's where you see some people walking around with that philosophy. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about that. There is, if you open up your eyes in a sense. So that was kind of like my first realization. So when I first started with actors, working with actors, I was noticing a lot of patterns of self-sabotage. What I mean by that would be blowing off auditions, not being prepared for auditions, declining auditions, coming up with plenty of excuses why they couldn't make the audition. Yet they were telling me a week before or 2 weeks before how hungry they are and passionate about acting and how much they wanted to work. And what I couldn't figure out was, okay, they're telling me they want to work, but yet they're not making any steps to get that work. So they're always going to be in a perpetual cycle of victimhood of the starving artist. I'm never going to work.
So, how do you balance your role as a talent agent with being a psychological coach?
I feel like it helps me have a deeper understanding of what is going on in the mind of the actor, and maybe have a little more patience than some of my other colleagues might who work in a talent representation space to understand what's really happening and what's really going on here.
Mm.
So I think that there's a more of a just of a gives me much of a more of a deeper understanding of again the psyche of the actor, the profile of the actor, and that's where I feel it can really help me connect with actors at a more deeper level, and a more help me with the rapport and just understanding is knowing what's going on.
What's the most common mental roadblock you see among your clients, and how do you tackle it?
I would say it's self doubt combined then with burnout. So because of the profession of show business and acting, yeah, it's very exciting. It's very there's so much possibility, but it's also very competitive, ultimately competitive. It is there's hundreds of thousands of actors for only a small number of roles. So only, and this is estimated by the Screen Actors Guild that only 2 or 3% of all the actors worldwide are making enough money to sustain a living. The other 97% need jobs outside of to sustain, to sustain a lead a living wage. So I think the constant thing is the self doubt that comes in because you're gonna get told no a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what talent level you are. You could be extremely talented, but you're still gonna get more no's than you're gonna get yes. It's just the nature of the way the business works. And I think it's so important for actors to be prepared for that, to know that that's a possibility. Because even if you give a great audition as an actor, if you could give a phenomenal, a terrific audition, be fully prepared, hit all the marks, but that's only 30 or 40% of the equation whether you're going to book the role or not. Has to do with your look, the timing, all of that, other factors, the vision of the writers, the producers. So it there's so much other factors outside of the actor's control.
Okay. Um, Can you share a client story where shifting their mindset led to a breakthrough role?
Sure. I still work with this actress now. When I first started working with her, she was already in the business for like 9 or 10 years, but she also had a very successful corporate job and vice president of a Macy's chain, retail merchandising, very successful career wise outside. Could not book a job. Now, when you spoke to her like as herself, as her real life self, she had an air of gravitas around her,
Okay.
a toughness of a really grounded person. You could really tell how she went up the ranks of her company. Her acting, though, came across as very timid and very soft spoken, which didn't match her physicality or her type. So, and it also had to do with a lack of confidence. And so, myself, along with her acting coach, worked with her. I worked, kind of on the more backside, the confidence side. Her acting coach helped her with her technique because what we wanted to do was match the persona off camera to the way that she approaches her characters on camera. Can we add the same gravitas and the same confidence as we were seeing before off camera? And when she was able to do that, it took a process. But when she was able to do that, she went from booking no roles to booking a role in this Netflix series Orange is the New Black. She booked a small role in FBI on CBS, and then about a year later, I'm on SVU. So it was once she became uh, confident and more comfortable in her skin, and comfortable in her approach, that she started to become bookable. And that happens with a lot of actors. I think we cannot underestimate the power of confidence in this type of work.
What do most performers get wrong about fear of success?
With fear of success, it's not necessarily wrong. I think the way to kind of reframe that would be not understanding that it exists.
Mm.
Because when you talk to people on a conscious level, it's like fear of success. Well, that's crazy. I want to be successful. And yes, consciously you do that. That's why we're all working to do whatever it is we do. We want to be successful. But on the side of things, success can be very scary too, because it's change, it's taking risks, stepping outside your comfort zone, and it's more responsibility and more pressure. when you succeed. And
Mhm.
then also you're juggling relationships too, because not everyone in your initial social circle, family, friends, loved ones, may be comfortable with you being successful because they're dealing with their own insecurities. So they're not going to be entirely comfortable with you being successful, and that can be scary. So it's like the fear of losing relationships too, fear of relationship changing, and therefore your mind, your conscious mind, and your subconscious mind work together to protect you, and that's just with anything. So if there's a major fear of that you're experiencing, your subconscious mind will say, "Okay, I got you. I'll protect you," and therefore success will keep you that away from you. And it's we don't realize we're having it. So the first thing is to realize that that may be a possibility, that you may actually fear the actual thing you're seeking.
Mhm. Okay. How do NLP techniques help creative professionals reframe self doubt?
So reframe is very, very powerful, and that's what NLP stands for, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it's all about like reframing, like having a different perspective and different thought pattern on things, and it makes things a little bit easier. So a couple of things that we can apply to creatives is to look at the idea of failure as feedback. So there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So
Mhm.
if you look at even the mistakes you made and say, well, look, these are great learning experiences, learning opportunities, chance for feedback. When you're able to look at feedback and the mistakes that you made as stepping stones for success, you will beat yourself up less over those
Okay.
and look at those as part of the process. So and it makes now that takes away the fear of failure. That's gone now. So you get that out of the mind. Another reframe is especially the R word that comes up when I say the R word that comes up, and that's rejection. That comes up a lot in my industry, and I like to kind of think that or tell people that, which is in my I strongly believe this. There's no such thing as rejection. It's only a simple reminder that your services are not needed today. So when you reframe it, look at it like that, you're not taking it personal anymore. And the outcome is not so important. You're not attaching yourself to the outcome because it's not personal. You just didn't get the role. It wasn't in the cards for you today. They were going in another direction. It has nothing to do with you as a person. So I think if you can take even the personal aspect out of it, and then couple that with the no such thing as failure, only feedback. When you combine both of those elements together, you're now at a more unsolvable nature because now the fear is gone.
Mhm.
And another final reframe when it comes to audition that I will say is look at instead of looking at it as a test, look at it as an opportunity to perform. Most actors become actors because they love performing. So look at that audition as a 1 or 2 minute window to perform.
Mhm.
And when you approach that window of saying, "Hey, I'm performing for 2 minutes. I'm doing what I love for 2 minutes. I'm showing them what I can do for 2 minutes." And then not being attached to the outcome. Let it go. As soon as if you're going to a physical audition, as soon as you leave the room, or if you're taping an audition, as soon as you send the tape in, let it go. Do not dwell on it. Do not focus on or beat yourself up with your next focus is to be what's my next opportunity. It's like, thank you. What's next?
Mhm. How do you define performance confidence, and how is it different from fake it till you make it?
Well, I think fake it until you make it signifies. I don't necessarily know if I like that word technology. I'm a fan of that fake it till you make it because it already kind of tells you on the subconscious level that you're not trained or you're not authentic, that you're an imposter. And that might fuel the imposter syndrome coming in there. So what I would say is like, especially if you work hard as an actor, Maybe you went to school or for acting, did a degree, or you went to a conservatory, or you spent a lengthy training program. That should give you the confidence that you are already a professional working actor. You're working because even if you're performing for a black box theater, you're still working.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to fake. You already are a professional working actor. So there's no need to fake anything at that point.
What role does hypnosis play in rewiring negative thought patterns for creatives?
Sure. Well, kind of very similar to NLP. It's working on reframing limiting beliefs.
Hmm.
And what hypnosis is effective is it works with the subconscious mind, the part of the mind that programs it. That it's like the heavy part of our mind, the deep part of our mind that really impacts our day to day behavior that we're not fully aware of. So if we, by reframing and just generally working with the subconscious mind by again changing these thought patterns, it can really help you just overall have a better, more confidence, and as well as just more ease. So another a hypnotic technique that anyone can try, regardless if you're an actor or not, is to use your imagination. One of the best tools that anybody can use is your imagination. So use your imagination and just visualize whether you have to give a test, whether you have to do a presentation, whether you go to an audition. You visualize and fully in your mind the process of you doing this thing, running through whatever it is you're setting out to do, and really live it through your five senses, like see it, hear it, feel it, smell it, everything, and as if it's happening, and you imagine with the feeling that it's successful. So what we'll often do is I would have someone recall an experience where they were really powerful, positive experience. And then I would say, okay, now tell me about the memory. And then it would go into it. Now, what are you feeling in your body? Most of them is, well, I feel like light in my chest. I feel, excitement. Okay, now take that same excitement and use that as you're imagining whatever it is you set to do it, and imagining them successful, because the brain does not know the difference. Our imagination, our brain does not know the difference between fiction and reality. So if you're able to imagine and visualize yourself as being much more successful, you can really do very well. And this is even documented even in studies with athletes. Like before they do a match or a meet, they will just visualize it, going really, really well in their favor. And then there's even a small increase in their performance. So because the brain is already expecting to do well.
Okay. What industry norms or myths are you trying to dismantle through your work?
I guess, well, it really depends on the industry. I mean, the one thing that I would say, going back to again, there's no such thing as rejection. So a myth, because I hear a lot. I want to be an actor, but there's so much rejection. No, there's not. If you don't look at it that way, there's not. With hypnosis and NLP, what I would really say the big myth is that there's no such thing as mind control. You can't hypnotize anybody against their will, or if they're morally opposed to it. Like I cannot influence free will. That's just the way it is. A person's free will. So the only way that hypnosis to be effective is if the other person is open and trusting the process. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective. So there's no such thing as mind control. I can't make anyone do anything against their will.
Absolutely. What does imposter syndrome look like in a high achieving actor?
Well, it comes with self doubt, and one of the another, I guess, even relating to your previous question with myth, I don't think there's anything about saying about destroying him or or getting rid of imposter syndrome, because that's what keeps us humble,
Mm.
and that's what really humility is all about. So on the good side, imposter syndrome is we it keeps you learning. It keeps you always adapting. It keeps you adapting with your friends and just getting better and better every day. So the textbook definition is usually about you feeling like you're a fraud or that somebody's going to find out that you're not knowledgeable in this area and that you're weak and that you don't know what you're doing. And it's often a myth because very rarely does that actually happen, unless,
Yeah.
of course, someone really makes some big mistakes or are lying. But if you're truly being honest, what I often say is like, take the time to reflect on it. And so let's look at your achievements. What have you achieved? And most of the time, people just either forget or they throw it under the rug. Like I didn't think that was important. Well, it is important. You worked this hard to get there, and then they say, well, I don't know this or I don't know that. Okay, well now it's time to learn that. That now take some classes, take some training to learn things. So always adapt the mentality because I'm always learning. So, and I tell people this, I have a PhD now. Technically, in academic, that's considered terminal degree.
Yeah.
I don't consider my education anywhere near terminal. It's I'm always as a matter of fact, I think it's just beginning. So I'm always learning, and I think that's a mentality that we all should be taking. High achievers is always learning and always always wanting to know more and always being open to learn more things.
Can you walk us through a practice exercise listeners can try at home to help stop sabotage?
Well, I would definitely say the visualization. So the first thing I would do is go back, recall an experience that you were the most powerful, most recent. And now, what did it feel like? So for me, I recall getting my PhD, walking across the stage, having my name called, getting robed, getting the tassel, the ribbon over me, robed by my advisor. That was one of the best feelings of my life. I was in cloud nine. It was so I make a habit of recalling that feeling, and then I take that feeling and then put that onto the next thing I'm about to do, whether it's I'm about to go live on social media or I'm about to go on a job interview or uh, make a pitch to something. And I visualize myself doing this in that frame of mind. So that's one thing you could do, one a visualization. What I would also say is watch the language you're using. So even language exercises. So for example, a three-letter word that's very powerful is the word yet. So if you say, "Well, I haven't made six figures," I haven't. That should be, "I haven't made six figures yet," or "I haven't launched my business." That should be, "I haven't launched my business yet," or "I haven't booked a TV show." I haven't booked a TV show yet. So that simple exercise too, changing your vocabulary. Also, instead of saying you're a starving artist or starving or aspiring or broke, always reframe it to you're a working professional actor, speaker, whatever it is you're doing. So that's another thing. The power of language is immensely vast. So the power of language that you're using. Another thing to do is to even keep a gratitude journal of everything that you're thankful for every day. And then also in your gratitude journal, all of your achievements you should mark down. Anytime you get a compliment on a job that you've done, a performance you've done, a service you've done, and someone comes up to you and just gives you a compliment. It doesn't have to be an influential person, just someone in your life or someone that you don't know very well goes out of their way to give you a compliment, and you document that. And I call that in my book the happy file because that your happy file and your gratitude journal, which is really the same thing, will help you overcome self doubt when you start feeling these moments of these thoughts coming up. Another really daily practice, very simple, is movement. Getting out and taking a walk, 10 minutes. The one thing, especially if you have anxiety or even depression or self doubt creeping in, the one thing you don't want to do is sit around all day and do nothing because that's where the thoughts are going to start entering your mind and maybe not some of the not so helpful thoughts.
How has your background in psychology changed how you scout or work with talent?
Well, I look at their goals, I look at their mind, their personality, which helps me kind of tell, like, are we going to get along? Because if I'm going to work with an actor, yes, they have to be talented, of course, but can I get along with them? And if I when I do book them, how are they going to behave on set? Are they going to be difficult to work with? Are they going to be easy to work with? That's also another thing that's important too. So I tend to look at their personality more in a sense of when I'm meeting with them and talking with them because in order for me to really sign somebody, I have to have at least an in-depth meeting with them, one on one.
Okay. What's one belief about success you had to unlearn yourself?
What I believe about success I learned myself was again hard work and taking action. So the word someday again is not a good element for success. Well, someday I'll write a book or someday I'll do this. The important thing is to take action. You want to be successful, start taking action. Keep a calendar. So not a to-do list, but a calendar.
How do you help performers who are burned out or stuck in cycles of rejection?
Well, helping them connect to the reason. Why did you want to do this in the beginning? What's the main purpose of this? What's the reasoning why you're doing this? Again, I'm not concerned. Let's not worry about the outcome. Why did you want to do this? And most of the time, for actors, I want to perform. I want to tell stories. It's an escape. I'm in a state of flow when I'm performing. Okay, well, let's connect to that again. And again, not being attached to the outcome. Let's not worry about that. You're getting chance every time you get to perform. And let's do other things. You can start a podcast. You can start um, do some work online or live on social media and perform, even by giving inspirational things or telling stories. So there's other things you can be doing, not just acting, waiting for the phone to ring. And also have outside hobbies. A lot of my acting clients are, realtors, or maybe they're fitness instructors, or they're other types of artists, and they do other stuff outside of acting that kind of also feeds and nourishes their soul rather than just waiting for the next acting job.
What are the hidden pressures in the entertainment industry that outsiders rarely understand?
I think just the amount of work that it takes to book a one role thing, because a lot of times, let's say someone who's not in the industry is not going to understand that. Well, you're an actor now, or you have an agent, so now you should be working every day. I should be seeing the lead in movies. Why is that not happening? And then, of course, like let's say you go back home for the holidays, so you have these family members. So what have you been in? What can I see you on TV? And it adds that pressure. And then let's say 6 months to a year as an acting job, then you get family members well intentioned. Maybe it's time to get a job, a real job. And those are like some really not so good words to hear because for an actor creative, that is a real job. That is a real job. I'll defend that to the end that this is a real job. This is not you know just a dream.
Yeah. What's your approach to helping creatives set healthy boundaries with their own ambition?
Well, boundaries is important. So having alone time is important. Having a time to decharge, decompress is important. Being able to, whether it's even just taking time out with family, loved ones, going on solo trips, but also learning to say no to things is important, especially if you don't think it's going to suit you. And what I talk about actors is when they're meeting with talent agents. I mean, obviously, there's a tendency with I get this meeting, I should sign, I should accept the contract, accept the offer. But if it's not really fitting with you, then maybe it's time to not necessarily sign if it doesn't align with you. You
Mm.
can say no to an agent, even who offers you a contract, and you'll still be okay at the end of the day. You can still turn down an acting job if you feel like it's not going to really serve you or really make you look in a good light. So boundaries are important.
What do you say to actors who feel like they're too late to make it?
There's no such thing. Some of the actors who made their big break, like who did The Sopranos, were not in their 50s and 60s before they made it. Even Morgan Freeman didn't really make it till he was in his 50s.
Mm.
So it takes time to develop. There's no such thing anymore. Anybody can do anything. I have clients in their 80s that are working.
So, how do you teach performers to trust their instincts again?
So again, just really connect to the fact that you went through this training. You know what you're doing. You can do this, and just reinforce that in a sense of like I know what I'm doing.
Mm. What's your vision on how mindset training should be integrated into every actor's career journey?
Well, again, mindset is extremely important. So having that growth mindset
Mhm.
is essential, necessary, because it'll help you. It helps keep you humble, but it also creates possibilities. Because that's the biggest thing. Like everything is possible if you can work hard to it, you can get there. But it's going to take time. It's going to take work, and you have to be coachable and open to telling or changing your approach.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Albert. This has been wonderful. I've had a great time talking with you. But we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find your book, everything.
Excellent. Well, so you can find my book on Amazon, Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. It's available paper book, Kindle format, and audiobook format, where all audiobooks are sold, Audible, Google, Spotify. You can also go to my website at albertbramante.com. I have a lot of custom hypnosis recordings for sale for anything related to athletic performance, to public speaking, to leadership, to addictions, sleep, confidence, and they're available for you. You can also find me on LinkedIn and under just Albert Bramante, and Instagram at Dr. Albert Bramante. And you can feel free to DM if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer that. So thank you again for having me on the show.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, man. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to actually come on the show and share your stories and share your knowledge. So thank you.
Well, thank you again.
But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and then we'll chat a
Sure.
little bit off the air. But thank you so much
Excellent.
for being such a wonderful guest.
Well, thank you, everyone. Bye.
All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. I greatly appreciate everybody who stopped by or who's going to stop by and catch the replay later on. As always, please follow the channel. Hit the notification bell. Let everybody know. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate everything you do. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.